Modern life is a storm of endless notifications, obligations, and anxieties. It feels overwhelmingly complex, yet an ancient philosophy offers a surprising escape route. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the core of Stoicism. It provides counterintuitive rules that at first seem backward, but they hold the key to profound mental strength and a radically simpler life. This video explores 20 of these principles, covering everything from how you perceive challenges to what you truly desire. By the end, you will possess a new mental framework to cut through the noise and find unshakable calm. Why would seeking discomfort lead to peace? How could loving your fate be the ultimate key to freedom? What is the one thing you completely control that you are probably ignoring? Which single rule from the past could change your entire perspective on the present? Stoics believed in seeking out hardship on purpose. This idea runs completely opposite to our modern world, where we chase constant comfort at every turn. We insulate ourselves from every possible inconvenience, from climate-controlled homes to on-demand entertainment. But the Stoics proposed a radical alternative, that by voluntarily stepping into discomfort, we build an inner resilience that makes life's inevitable hardships feel smaller. This is not about masochism or punishing yourself. It is a form of mental and emotional training. The philosopher Seneca advised his friend Lucilius to periodically practice poverty. Set aside a few days each month, he suggested, to wear rough clothes, eat plain food, and sleep on a hard bed. Why would anyone do this? The goal, Seneca explained, is to discover that the worst fears of poverty are often worse than poverty itself. You realize that you can endure far more than you thought, and in that realization, your fear of losing external comforts begins to lose its grip on you. Epictetus, another Stoic teacher, put it plainly when he said, "So in the present case, you must practice to be able to say to every harsh appearance, 'You are but an appearance, and not the thing you appear to be.'" By seeking discomfort, you are training yourself to see hardship as a mere appearance, a temporary condition that does not define your inner state. How does this look in practice? It could be as simple as taking a cold shower instead of a warm one. It might be skipping a meal to understand the difference between true hunger and mere boredom. You could choose to walk or bike to work on a chilly morning instead of driving your warm car. Each of these small acts is a drill for your mind. They are not meant to make you miserable, but to prove a profound point to yourself, that your peace and strength do not depend on perfect external conditions. You are building a citadel within, one that remains unshaken whether the sun is shining or a storm is raging outside. What is one small comfort you rely on that you could voluntarily give up for just a day this week? Choosing to do without it, even briefly, is not a loss. It is a quiet declaration of independence from the things you cannot control. How much of your day is spent worrying about what others think of you? This constant concern for external validation is a subtle trap that complicates our lives and weakens our minds. The second counterintuitive Stoic rule is to stop seeking praise and instead cultivate self-approval. This is not about becoming arrogant or dismissive, but about shifting the entire source of your confidence from the fickle opinions of others to the steady ground of your own virtuous actions. Chasing praise makes you a slave to every compliment and a victim of every criticism. Your sense of worth becomes a roller coaster controlled by forces you cannot command. The Stoics identified this as a fundamental misstep, a confusion within their dichotomy of control. You have no real power over what others say, think, or feel about you. The only thing you truly own is your own character and your choices. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, "Do not waste the remainder of your life in thoughts about others, when you are not thinking with reference to some aspect of the common good." Why are you still bothered by what so and so is saying? His point was stark. Redirect that mental energy inward. Focus on whether your own actions are just, courageous, and wise. When your primary goal is to live with integrity, the need for applause simply fades. You begin to act rightly because it is the right thing to do, not because you hope for a reward in the form of social recognition. Consider a simple, powerful scenario. Imagine you see a piece of litter on a deserted street. No one is watching. You could walk past it and no one would ever know. But you choose to pick it up and place it in a bin. In that quiet moment, you receive no thank you, no nod of approval. The satisfaction you feel comes entirely from the act itself, from the alignment between your value for a clean environment and your action. That feeling is self-approval. It is a deep, quiet contentment that does not depend on anyone else's awareness. It is a form of freedom. Now, think back to a recent action you took, perhaps a post you shared online or a task you completed at work. How much of your motivation was rooted in a desire for external validation? How did achieving that praise or failing to receive it ultimately make you feel? The temporary high of recognition is often followed by a lingering anxiety, a need to secure the next round of approval. Self-approval, built on a foundation of virtue, offers a peace that is both lasting and entirely your own. The Stoics advise you to not just accept your fate, but to love it. This is the principle of amor fati, a love of one's fate. It sounds almost absurd to welcome a job loss, a heartbreak, or a sudden illness. Yet this is not about passive resignation or pretending that pain does not hurt. It is an active, radical embrace of reality, a deliberate choice to see every single event, especially the difficult ones, as not just obstacles to be endured, but as necessary and beneficial ingredients for your growth. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who was deeply influenced by Stoic thought, later captured this idea perfectly when he wrote, "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity." This is the mindset of seeing your entire life, the good and the bad, as a single, coherent work of art where every thread is essential. The Stoic teacher Epictetus, born a slave, framed it as a practice of welcoming. He said, "Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly." He is telling us to reverse the flow of our desire. Instead of struggling against the current of reality, we are to swim with it, recognizing that the current itself is what shapes and strengthens us. Think of a personal story you might have, a failure that stung deeply. Perhaps you were rejected from a university you had your heart set on. At the moment, it felt like a catastrophe, a defining loss. But years later, you look back and see that rejection forced you down a different path, one where you met your most important mentor, discovered a passion you never knew you had, or built a life far richer than the one you had originally planned. From the vantage point of the present, you can almost feel a sense of gratitude for that initial no. Amor fati is the decision to feel that gratitude not years later, but now, in the midst of the difficulty itself. It is to look at the closed door and, instead of bruising your shoulders by pounding on it, to turn around and love the new corridor that has just been revealed. So consider one current challenge in your own life, a source of stress or frustration. What if you were to reframe it right now, not as a random piece of bad luck, but as a necessary and beneficial event? What hidden strength might it be asking you to develop? What new direction is it compelling you to explore? To love your fate is to trust the process of your own life, believing that even the rocks in the stream are there to guide the water's flow. We are often told to focus only on the positive, to visualize success and banish all negative thoughts. The Stoics propose the exact opposite, a practice so counterintuitive it seems almost like a form of mental judo. They call it Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. This is the disciplined act of vividly imagining the very things we fear most, not to invite them in, but to disarm their power over us. By mentally rehearsing potential losses and setbacks, we accomplish two profound things. We cultivate a deeper gratitude for what we currently possess, and we build a resilient preparedness that ensures no catastrophe can truly break us. The Roman philosopher Seneca powerfully advised his friend to regularly contemplate such possibilities. He wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." Spend some days in which you have nothing but the scantiest food and rough clothing. Then say to yourself, "Is this what I used to dread?" He is telling us to stare directly at the specters of exile, poverty, and even death, not with a shudder of horror, but with a calm analysis. By doing so, we discover a crucial truth, that the anticipation of the event is almost always far worse than the event itself. This practice systematically strips fear of its greatest weapon, the element of surprise. Imagine applying this to a modern scenario. You have a difficult conversation looming with your manager. The common advice is to visualize it going perfectly. The Stoic approach is different. You sit quietly and deliberately picture the worst-case outcome. You imagine being criticized harshly or even losing your position. You feel the initial sting, the rush of anxiety, but then you continue the mental movie. You see yourself the next day, updating your resume, reaching out to your network, considering new possibilities. You realize that while it would be a setback, it would not be the end of your story. Your capacity to endure and rebuild remains intact. This is not pessimism, it is a profound form of empowerment. What single outcome are you quietly dreading right now? Take just 2 minutes today to close your eyes and mentally walk through that scenario. Do not run from the discomfort. Instead, meet it head-on and watch as your own imagined resilience begins to overshadow the fear. According to the Stoics, you are disturbed not by things, but by the views you take of them. This single idea cuts to the very heart of emotional suffering and offers a startlingly simple path to freedom. The event itself is neutral. It is the label you stick onto it, the story you tell yourself about it, that generates your anger, your anxiety, or your despair. Your opinion is your reality, and that opinion is the one thing you can absolutely change. The Stoic teacher Epictetus began his entire manual for life, the Enchiridion, with this foundational truth. He wrote, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the principles and notions which they form concerning things. When you grasp this, you realize you have been fighting shadows." The true battle for peace is not out in the world, it is within the private theater of your own mind. Think about a situation almost everyone faces, being stuck in unmoving traffic. For one person, this is a catastrophe. Their judgment is, "This is ruining my entire day. I am going to be late. Everyone will be angry. This is unfair." Their body tenses, their mood plummets, and they spend the next 20 minutes in a state of self-inflicted misery. Another person in the exact same car, in the exact same traffic, has a different judgment. They think, "Well, this is out of my control. Here is a chance to listen to that new album or just enjoy a few minutes of quiet." Their reality is not one of frustration, but of acceptance or even minor enjoyment. The external event is identical. The only difference is the internal opinion each person chose to hold. This is the secret lever for simplifying your emotional world. You do not need to change the world to find calm. You only need to audit your judgments. Every time you feel a surge of negative emotion, you can pause and ask a simple question. What is the story I am telling myself about this? Is that story absolutely true, or is it just one possible interpretation? Recall a recent minor annoyance from your own week, perhaps a spilled coffee or a critical comment from a colleague. What was the immediate judgment you attached to that event? Did you decide it was a sign of your clumsiness or a personal attack on your competence? That judgment, not the coffee or the words themselves, was the real source of your frustration. The power lies in recognizing that you are the author of that judgment, and with that recognition comes the freedom to write a new, more empowering story. This practice of mental rehearsal finds its physical counterpart in a deliberate exercise of voluntary discomfort. Think of it as a mental diet for the soul, a scheduled poverty drill designed not to punish, but to awaken. The Stoics understood that constant comfort breeds a kind of numbness, an entitlement that blinds us to the simple privileges we enjoy every single day. By periodically choosing to live as if we have lost our advantages, we perform a powerful reset on our appreciation for them. We resensitize ourselves to joy. Seneca was a man of immense wealth, yet he deliberately engaged in what he called a practice of poverty. He would set aside certain days to live on the cheapest bread, wear his most worn-out tunic, and sleep on a hard bed. He did this, he explained, not because he feared losing his fortune, but to prove to himself that he could live happily without it. His goal was to be able to look at his wealth and say, "Is this what I used to dread?" This voluntary descent into simplicity was his way of inoculating himself against the fear of loss, and more importantly, of ensuring he never took his good fortune for granted. The moment you realize you can thrive with less, the things you have transformed from necessities into gifts. Your morning coffee is no longer just a routine, it is a small luxury. Your warm bed is not a given, but a nightly comfort you actively feel grateful for. This practice dismantles the attachment that complicates our lives, the quiet dread that we could not survive if our circumstances changed. So what does this look like in a modern context? You could declare a digital Sabbath for one full day, turning off all non-essential screens and notifications to remember what silence and focused attention feel like. You might choose to eat only simple, plain meals for a day, rediscovering the basic pleasure of nourishment without the need for constant variety and stimulation. You could even decide to wear an old, comfortable outfit instead of something new, to break the cycle of needing the latest fashion to feel content. These are not acts of deprivation, but experiments in freedom. They are brief, controlled explorations of a simpler reality, designed to make your normal life feel richer and more abundant when you return to it. What is one comfort or convenience you rely on? Perhaps your smartphone, your daily specialty coffee, or the endless stream of entertainment at your fingertips. The challenge is to choose just one and intentionally go without it for the next 24 hours. Notice the initial urge, the small void it leaves, and then observe the space that opens up. You are not losing a comfort, you are reclaiming your independence from it. The obstacle is the way. This famous Stoic phrase sounds like a contradiction, yet it holds a profound truth about the nature of progress. We spend so much energy trying to clear a smooth, obstacle-free path for ourselves, believing that is the only route to a good life. The Stoics propose the opposite, that the obstacle itself is not a detour, but the main road. Every challenge, every setback, and every limitation is the very material we need to build our strength, creativity, and character. An obstacle forces you to stop operating on autopilot. It demands a new response, a fresh perspective, or a deeper courage you did not know you possessed. In this way, what stands in the way becomes the way forward. Marcus Aurelius, who faced countless military and political crises, wrote directly to himself on this point. He said, "Our actions may be impeded, but there can be no impeding our intentions or our dispositions." Because we can accommodate and adapt, the mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. He is telling us that an impediment to a lazy action can actually advance a more determined one. A blocked path forces the mind to find a new route, and in that process, the mind itself grows stronger. Look at the story of Thomas Edison. When his laboratory complex burned to the ground, destroying years of work and prototypes, he did not see it as a final defeat. He famously reframed the catastrophe, saying there was great value in all our mistakes, as the fire had burned all his errors clean. He then immediately set to work rebuilding, energized and unburdened by the past. This is the Stoic mindset in action, viewing the apparent disaster not as a stop sign, but as a harsh and necessary clearing that made a better future possible. The fire was the obstacle, and it became the way to a more resilient and focused enterprise. Your own obstacles, while perhaps less dramatic, operate on the same principle. That difficult colleague is not just a source of frustration. They are your personal trainer for practicing patience and clear communication. A financial limitation is not merely a restriction. It is a forced lesson in creativity and discerning what is truly essential. The obstacle is not something to be wished away. It is the training ground you have been given. So bring to mind one specific obstacle you are facing right now. It could be a project that seems too large, a skill you find difficult to learn, or a personal conflict that feels unresolved. Now, ask yourself this single question. If this obstacle were intentionally placed here to make me stronger or smarter, what one quality is it demanding that I develop? The obstacle is not in your way, it is the way. We live in a world that never stops talking. Social media feeds, group chats, and meetings overflow with endless words, creating a constant hum of communication that demands our participation. The 8th counterintuitive Stoic rule offers a quiet rebellion against this noise: speak little and well. This is not about being shy or withholding, but about recognizing that most talk is a drain on your attention and inner calm. Every unnecessary word is a tiny leak of your energy, and every drama fueled by gossip is a fire you chose to feed. Measured speech is an act of self-control, a way to preserve your peace and ensure your words carry real weight when you do choose to use them. The founder of Stoicism, Zeno, put it starkly when he said that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. He saw the tongue not as a harmless tool, but as a dangerous weapon that, when used carelessly, can cause immense damage to ourselves and others. Seneca echoed this, praising the power of silence, writing, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for a kindness. Sometimes the greatest kindness is to listen deeply or to withhold a cutting remark." Your speech is one of the few things truly under your command, and choosing its quality and quantity is a direct application of Stoic virtue. Think of a common workplace scenario. A colleague pulls you aside to gossip about another team member's mistake. The easy, automatic response is to join in, to add your own observation and fuel the conversation. The Stoic response is different. You can simply listen, offer a neutral acknowledgement, and choose not to contribute any negative judgment. You might even gently redirect the conversation to a solution. By speaking little in that moment, you accomplish several things. You avoid spreading negativity, you protect your own mind from dwelling on someone else's fault, and you build a reputation for integrity. Your silence in this case is more powerful than any words you could have uttered. Or consider a personal moment when you are asked for an opinion. Instead of launching into a long, rambling justification filled with excuses or flattery, you offer a simple, honest answer. It feels clean and direct. There is no messy aftermath to manage, no need to remember which story you told to which person. Your energy remains intact. For the next 24 hours, try a simple experiment. Become an observer of your own speech. Carry a mental notepad and make a mark every time you catch yourself speaking without a clear purpose, whether it is complaining, gossiping, or filling a silence with empty noise. Do not judge yourself, simply notice the frequency. How much of your daily communication is essential? How much is simply habit? This practice of speaking little and well is not about becoming silent, but about ensuring that when you do speak, your words are a reflection of your inner strength, not a reaction to outer noise. Imagine yourself as a rock in the middle of a fast-flowing river. The water rushes and swirls around you, but you remain solid, anchored to the bedrock below. The 9th Stoic rule is to become this rock in the river of life, cultivating an emotional stability that remains unmoved by the chaos of external events. The water represents everything outside your control: the criticism, the sudden news, the daily frustrations. The rock is your core self, your faculty of judgment, anchored firmly in virtue and reason. The goal is not to become cold or unfeeling, but to stop the outer world from dictating your inner state. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly in his private meditations when he wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." He is reminding you that your essential character is not colored by what happens to you, but by the judgments and principles you hold within. A rock does not get angry at the river for flowing, nor does it celebrate when the water is calm. It simply is. This is the stance you can learn to take. Consider a practical situation. You receive a harshly worded email from a client criticizing a project you have poured your heart into. The immediate, automatic reaction is to feel a surge of anger or defensiveness. Your heart races, your thoughts spiral into indignation. This is the river crashing against you. The Stoic practice is to pause and become the rock. You feel the initial impact, but you do not let it sweep you away. You anchor yourself in reason. You assess the criticism calmly, separating the useful feedback from the emotional tone. You ask yourself, what here is true and within my power to address? What is merely noise and outside my control? Your response, when you choose to give one, is then measured and constructive, not a reactive outburst. You have remained steadfast. The next time you feel overwhelmed by a chaotic situation, a difficult conversation, or a wave of bad news, take one deep breath and visualize this rock. Feel its solid, unshakable presence in the midst of the torrent. The water will always flow, that is the nature of the world, but your peace depends not on calming the river, but on choosing to be the rock. The relentless chase for more is a trap disguised as ambition. Society tells you that happiness lies just over the next horizon, with the next purchase, the next promotion, or the next milestone. The 10th counterintuitive Stoic rule turns this entire logic on its head, urging you to desire less, not more. This is the ultimate simplification, a radical pruning of the wants that clutter your mind and chain your peace to future outcomes you cannot control. Each new desire you cultivate is like planting another seed for potential anxiety. Will you get it? What happens if you fail? How will you feel when you see someone else who has it? By consciously limiting your desires, you are not settling for less. You are claiming a greater wealth, the freedom of wanting what you already possess. The Stoic teacher Epictetus, who owned almost nothing, framed this idea with piercing clarity. He said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." True prosperity is not an overflowing bank account, but an unburdened mind. The goal is a state the Greeks called ataraxia, a serene tranquility that comes from no longer being jerked around by endless cravings and aversions. This is not a call to abandon all goals, but to scrutinize the source of your motivation. Are you acting from a place of purpose and virtue, or from a hollow ache for external validation and material accumulation? A powerful practice to cultivate this mindset is to periodically conduct a thorough review of your life, not just your physical possessions, but your commitments, your relationships, and your aspirations. Hold each one in your mind and ask a simple, ruthless question. Is this necessary for a virtuous and meaningful life? You might find that the second streaming subscription, the pursuit of a certain social status, or even the clutter in your garage represents not a gain but a weight. Each item you mentally release is a chain you break, so take a moment and bring to mind 3 specific things you currently desire. It could be a new car, a different job title, or a particular relationship. Now look at each one with stoic honesty. If you obtained it, would the quiet, lasting peace you are truly seeking finally arrive? Or would the initial thrill quickly fade, only to be replaced by the quiet itch for the next thing on the list? The path to contentment is not in satisfying every desire, but in mastering the art of wanting less. Your life is not a checklist to be completed. We are conditioned to see existence as a series of destinations, a race from one milestone to the next: graduation, career, marriage, retirement. We tell ourselves, I will be happy when I finally arrive. The Stoics dismantled this entire framework with their 11th rule: view life as a project, not a destination. Happiness is not a place you reach, but the quality of the journey itself, found in the continuous, daily effort to live with virtue and reason. The finish line is an illusion, and waiting for it only ensures you miss the entire point of the race. Seneca wrote extensively about this in his letters, emphasizing that life is an art that must be practiced every single day. He advised, as long as you live, keep learning how to live. The goal is not to become a perfect sage, a distant and unattainable ideal, but to make progress, to be a little wiser, a little more just today than you were yesterday. The value is in the striving, in the process of becoming. Imagine learning to play a musical instrument. If your only focus is on the final, flawless recital, every practice session is filled with anxiety and the sting of every wrong note. But if you learn to love the practice itself, the daily discipline of placing your fingers on the strings, the subtle improvement in your ear, the simple joy of making sound, then your happiness is no longer deferred. The recital becomes just one moment in a lifelong, rewarding relationship with music. The same is true for your character. The project of your life is to practice courage in small conversations, to exercise justice in minor decisions, to apply wisdom to daily frustrations. Did you manage your irritation in traffic better today than yesterday? That is progress. Did you choose honesty when a white lie was easier? That is a successful day in your project. The external outcomes, the promotions and accolades, are like the applause after the recital. They are fleeting and not entirely within your control. But the satisfaction of knowing you practiced well, that you showed up for your own development, that is a reward no one can take from you. So ask yourself this, setting aside any external goal or result: what would genuine progress in your character look like for you today? Perhaps it is a single act of patience, or a moment of deliberate kindness, or simply the quiet decision not to complain. That small, internal victory is the essence of the Stoic project, and it is available to you right now, no matter where you are on the map. You own nothing except your time and your attention. This is the stark truth at the heart of the 12th Stoic rule, a principle that reframes your entire relationship with life. Everything else, your possessions, your reputation, even your own body, is merely on loan. But the hours in your day are the one non-renewable currency you truly possess, and how you spend them defines the quality of your existence. The Stoics were not pessimists, but they were profound realists. They practiced Memento Mori, the remembrance of death, not to cultivate fear, but to ignite a fierce and urgent clarity about life. It is the ultimate tool for prioritization, cutting through the noise of trivial concerns and compelling you to focus on what is essential. Remembering that you will die is what teaches you how to truly live. Seneca, in his powerful essay on the shortness of life, confronts this with unflinching honesty. He writes, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Life is long enough, and it has been given in sufficiently generous measure to allow the accomplishment of the very greatest things, if the whole of it is well invested. The problem, he argues, is not the shortness of our days, but how much of our time is stolen by worry, idleness, or vain pursuits. We act as if we have an endless supply of tomorrows, and in doing so, we fritter away the precious todays. How can you apply this sobering wisdom? One practical Stoic exercise is to begin each morning by quietly acknowledging that this day could be your last. This is not a dark or morbid thought, but a clarifying lens. Ask yourself, if this were my final day, would I spend it complaining about a minor inconvenience? Would I lose an hour scrolling through social media? Would I choose to hold onto a petty grudge? The answer is almost always a resounding no. This simple morning reflection instantly reorients your mind toward meaningful actions and virtuous behavior. It pushes you to have that important conversation you have been avoiding, to appreciate the people around you, and to do your work with integrity, not for external reward, but because it is the right way to spend your one precious day. So take a moment for a brief and honest audit. Look back at your last 24 hours. Can you identify a single block of time, perhaps 30 minutes or even an hour, that was spent on something that did not truly matter? It might have been lost to mindless entertainment, to gossip, or to worrying about a situation you cannot change. That time is gone forever. The power of this rule lies not in regret, but in the immediate opportunity it presents. Tomorrow morning, you can make a different choice. You can reclaim your most precious asset and invest it where it truly counts. What if your responsibility extended beyond your family and friends to all of humanity? This expansive view is the heart of the 13th Stoic rule, to see the world as a fellow citizen. The Stoics called this cosmopolitanism, the idea that you are not merely a citizen of your town or your country, but a citizen of the entire cosmos. This perspective shatters the small, tribal identities that so often lead to conflict and complication. It replaces us versus them with a simple, profound recognition of our shared human nature. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this truth during his campaigns, writing in his Meditations, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." He saw humanity as a single, interconnected organism where harming another ultimately harms the whole and therefore harms yourself. Your duty, then, is to act for the common good because your own good is inextricably linked to it. This is not a vague, sentimental ideal, but a practical tool for simplifying your social world. When you see the rude cashier not as an obstacle, but as a fellow citizen who may be struggling, your impulse shifts from irritation to patience. When you read about a disaster in a distant country, you feel a tug of connection, not detached indifference. This mindset fosters a natural empathy that dissolves petty judgments and reduces the friction in your daily interactions. Consider a modern, tangible application. You are walking down the street and see a tourist looking lost, trying to read a map on their phone. The easy path is to walk on by, absorbed in your own world. The Stoic path, viewing yourself as a fellow citizen, prompts you to stop and ask if they need directions. That small act of service costs you a moment, but it reinforces a bond of shared humanity. On a larger scale, it could mean making a conscious choice to reduce your waste, not just for your own local environment, but out of consideration for the global community that shares this planet. The complexity of social life often stems from drawing tight circles around who deserves our kindness and our help. Cosmopolitanism asks you to erase those circles. So, for just a moment, reflect on your own life. What is one specific action you could take this week that offers a genuine benefit to someone entirely outside your immediate circle? It might be a small donation to an international relief fund, a kind word to a stranger who seems down, or simply making a purchase from a company that supports fair labor practices abroad. This single act, guided by the principle of world citizenship, is a quiet but powerful declaration that your concern and your responsibility does not end at your own front door. Your mind is a courtroom that never adjourns, constantly issuing verdicts on everyone you meet. This rush to judgment is so automatic it feels effortless, a reflex as natural as breathing. Stoicism calls for the exact opposite, a conscious and counterintuitive discipline to judge less and understand more. Every time you label someone as rude, lazy, or incompetent, you are not just describing their behavior, you are creating a story in your mind, one that often fuels your own irritation and inner conflict. The Stoic goal is to pause that judicial process, to recognize that you almost never have the full context for another person's actions. By withholding your immediate judgment, you are not excusing bad behavior, you are protecting your own peace. Marcus Aurelius offered a simple, powerful guideline for this practice. He wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil, but I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own." He is advising us to meet the flaws of others not with outrage, but with a philosophical understanding that they are acting from a place of ignorance, not malice. This is a profound act of kindness, first to yourself and then to them. Consider the classic scenario of being cut off in traffic. The instant, effortless judgment is to decide the other driver is an inconsiderate and reckless person. Your blood pressure rises, your mood sours, and you might even respond with a honk or a gesture, adding more negativity to the world. Now apply the Stoic pause. Withhold that verdict. Instead, invent a compassionate reason. Perhaps they are rushing to the hospital to see a loved one. Maybe they are a new driver, overwhelmed and making a mistake. The event itself, the car changing lanes, has not changed, but your judgment of it has, and with that shift, your internal disturbance simply evaporates. You replace anger with a moment of empathy, and your journey continues in peace. The next time you feel that familiar surge of judgment toward a colleague, a family member, or a stranger, catch yourself in the act. Notice the story you are starting to tell. Then, challenge yourself to invent one generous, compassionate reason that could explain their behavior. This is not about being naive. It is about exercising a muscle of understanding that fortifies your mind against the petty conflicts and frustrations that complicate an otherwise simple day. Thinking endlessly about a problem is often just a clever disguise for inaction. We live in an age of analysis paralysis, where we can research, plan, and worry about a decision for so long that we never actually make it. The 15th Stoic rule cuts through this fog with a simple, powerful command: choose action over endless deliberation. Stoicism is not a philosophy for armchair theorists. it is a practical guide for the person in the arena. Once your reason has identified the virtuous and right course, your only job is to step forward and do it without hesitation, without the endless loop of what-ifs. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius demanded this of himself in his private writings, stating bluntly, "Stop talking about what a good man is like, just be one." He was reminding himself that virtue is not an intellectual concept to be debated, but a series of concrete actions to be lived. His words are a call to stop preparing to live and to start living now. Your own life provides the perfect classroom for this principle. Perhaps there is a difficult conversation you know you need to have, an apology to offer, or a boundary to set. The common pattern is to rehearse the dialogue in your head for days, imagining every possible rebuttal and crafting the perfect response. This feels productive, but it is usually just a form of mental procrastination that amplifies anxiety. The Stoic approach is radically different. You would take a few moments to clarify your intention, to ensure your goal is rooted in honesty and fairness, not in winning or hurting. Then you would seek out the person and begin the conversation. The action itself, however imperfect, is infinitely more valuable than the most perfectly imagined script that remains in your mind. It is through action that we learn, adjust, and ultimately resolve the situations that deliberation alone can only prolong. Epictetus criticized those who treated philosophy as mere intellectual decoration. He observed that while a philosopher might eloquently describe how to face adversity, the moment a little danger threatens, they prove themselves to be miserable cowards. He was pointing out the vast chasm between knowing the path and walking the path. Knowledge without application is empty, and deliberation without a final decision is a waste of your precious time and energy. So look at one thing you have been circling in your own mind. It might be starting an exercise routine, applying for a new role, or finally organizing that cluttered closet. What is the very first, smallest, most concrete step you could take right now? Not tomorrow, not after you have done more research, but today. Could you put on your walking shoes and step outside for just 5 minutes? Could you draft one paragraph of that application email? Could you fill one single bag of items to donate? The momentum of that single, decisive action will do more to simplify the problem and strengthen your mind than 1,000 more hours of thought. Real wealth is the kind that cannot be taxed, stolen, or lost in a market crash. It is the profound sense of abundance that emerges not from getting more, but from expertly managing what you already have. This brings us to the 16th counterintuitive Stoic rule: find wealth in wanting less. This is the ultimate application of the dichotomy of control. You cannot guarantee you will acquire the next promotion or the perfect partner, but you have absolute command over the desires you choose to cultivate or release. By focusing your energy here on the internal landscape of your wants, you build a fortune that is permanently secure. Seneca, a man who knew immense material riches, saw this with perfect clarity. He wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." True poverty is a state of endless wanting, a constant feeling of lack that no amount of external acquisition can ever satisfy. The greatest wealth, then, is a poverty of desires, a feeling of sufficiency so deep that you look at your life and find it complete. This is a practical skill you can train. It begins with a simple mental exercise of reorienting your appreciation toward the simple, freely available pleasures that surround you. The warmth of sunlight on your skin costs nothing, yet it is a daily gift. The taste of cool water when you are thirsty is a profound satisfaction. The feeling of a deep, calming breath, the sound of rain against the window, the sight of a sunset, these are sources of immense, untaxable wealth. When you learn to derive deep joy from these universal constants, You become invulnerable to the fluctuations of fate. Your happiness is no longer tied to the fragile world of objects and events. So take a quiet moment and perform this act of mental accounting. List 5 specific things you are genuinely grateful for that cost little or no money. It could be the comfort of your favorite chair, the smell of fresh coffee, the loyalty of a pet, or the memory of a friend's laughter. Feel the genuine weight of that gratitude. This is not a superficial exercise. It is the active construction of your inner fortress. Each item on your list is a brick in a wall that protects your peace, a reminder that the richest life is often the simplest one. What if every criticism was a gift from a hidden mentor? This is the startling perspective of the 17th Stoic rule, to welcome criticism as a gift. Our instinct is to recoil, to defend, to explain away any negative feedback. We armor our ego against the perceived attack. The Stoics propose a radical disarmament, to lower your defenses and sift through every critique for the single, valuable coin of truth it might contain. The delivery may be clumsy, even cruel, but the message itself is a free lesson in self-improvement, an external mirror held up to our blind spots. The Stoic teacher Epictetus, who endured a life of criticism and hardship, framed this as a learning opportunity from everyone you meet. He taught, if anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, he was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone. This is not false humility, but a profound shift in focus. You are being handed a list of your perceived flaws, a checklist for your own moral and practical development. Why ignore such a useful document simply because you do not like the messenger? Consider a modern workplace scenario. Your manager calls you into their office and delivers a blunt critique of your recent presentation, pointing out that your data was disorganized and your conclusion was unclear. Their tone is impatient, their manner dismissive. The immediate emotional response is to feel wounded, to think of all the hours you worked, to mentally list the reasons why they are wrong. The Stoic response is to consciously separate the harsh delivery from the content of the feedback. You set aside the emotion and ask, is there truth here? Was my data presented in the most effective way? Could my conclusion have been sharper? By accepting that single, valid point, you turn a painful interaction into a catalyst for becoming a more competent and precise professional. The criticism, however poorly packaged, has just given you a clear path to growth. Now, bring to mind one piece of criticism you received recently, perhaps from a partner, a friend, or a colleague. It likely stung in the moment, but if you set the emotional wrapper aside, what one constructive piece of advice can you extract from its core? That single insight, freed from the negativity, is the real gift waiting to be opened. The Stoics believed you should think about your death every day. This is the heart of the 18th rule, to practice death in order to practice life. It sounds grim, a dark cloud hanging over your every moment, but the Stoics understood it as the exact opposite, a brilliant light that illuminates what truly matters. This is Memento Mori, the remembrance of death, and it is not a morbid fixation but the ultimate tool for cutting through life's trivialities and living with fierce purpose and intensity. When you genuinely hold the finiteness of your time in mind, the small anxieties that normally consume you, the fear of a stranger's opinion, the frustration over a delayed package, simply lose their power. They are exposed as the inconsequential noise they are, allowing your true priorities to emerge with startling clarity. This practice instills a profound urgency, not a frantic one, but a calm and determined drive to act virtuously and lovingly now, not in some distant, hypothetical future. Marcus Aurelius offered a piercingly direct meditation on this. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He is not suggesting a life of reckless abandon, but one of profound intention. If this moment, this very day, could be your final one, how would you choose to fill it? Would you waste it in bitterness or in pettiness or in procrastination? Or would you use it to express love, to do meaningful work, to act with integrity? The answer becomes immediately obvious. A simple and powerful way to apply this is to make it an evening ritual. As your day winds down, ask yourself 2 questions. If this were my last day, did I live it well, and did I act with virtue? This is not a test to fail, but a gentle, honest audit. It is not about judging every minor misstep, but about recognizing the overall direction of your day. Did you contribute something positive? Were you kind? Were you courageous when it was required? This nightly reflection gently resets your compass for the morning that may come. So here is a direct challenge. Take a moment right now to truly consider this. If you knew with absolute certainty that today was your final day, what one thing would you do differently? Would you finally make that phone call to mend a fence? Would you spend an extra hour truly present with your family, setting aside all screens and distractions? Would you simply sit in quiet gratitude for the simple miracle of being alive? Write that one thing down. That single action is not a task for a final day. It is a compass pointing toward what your life is missing right now. The remembrance of death is not a call to despair, but an invitation to live with an urgency that makes every single day a masterpiece. Deep within you stands a fortress no external force can ever truly breach. This is your inner citadel, the final and unassailable sanctuary of your mind, where your true self resides. The Stoics envisioned this not as a physical place, but as the core of your being, the seat of your reasoned choice, your virtue, and your power of judgment. While the world outside can lay siege to your body, your reputation, and your possessions, it remains powerless against this inner stronghold, unless you yourself lower the drawbridge through your own poor judgments. Marcus Aurelius returned to this metaphor again and again in his private writings, reminding himself that the soul is a citadel, a fortress where the walls are your own principles. He wrote, "Nothing can touch the soul, not even fire or steel, unless the soul itself is first deceived by appearances." He is telling us that our inner peace is not something that can be taken from us, it can only be surrendered. You remain the sole guardian of this gate. Imagine facing a profound financial setback, the sudden loss of a job or a significant investment. For someone whose identity is tied to their net worth, this event feels like a total collapse, a personal failure that shatters their world. But for the person who has fortified their inner citadel, the experience is different. They feel the initial shock, the practical concern, but their core self remains unshaken. Their self-worth was never stored in a bank account. It was rooted in their integrity, their resilience, and their capacity to adapt. The outer walls of their life may have been damaged, but the central fortress stands firm, already planning the next move with calm clarity. This is the ultimate freedom Stoicism offers, the realization that your value is not contingent on the volatile world outside, but is a constant internal possession. So take a quiet moment and visualize your own inner citadel. See its walls strong and tall, built from the principles you hold most dear. Now ask yourself this: what one virtue stands as the primary guardian of its gates? Is it courage, refusing to be intimidated by fear? Is it wisdom, carefully discerning what is within your control from what is not? Or is it justice, ensuring that every action you take from this fortress is fair and kind? Name that single guardian virtue, for in strengthening it, you reinforce the entire structure, ensuring that no matter what storms rage outside, your inner world remains a place of unshakable peace. The modern world champions the myth of multitasking, a frantic juggling act that fractures our attention and drains our mental reserves. This final counterintuitive Stoic rule offers a powerful antidote to simplify your entire existence by focusing only on the present task. Anxiety is almost always a phantom, born from replaying past regrets or pre-living future troubles. The Stoic remedy is to surgically narrow your focus to the single, manageable duty directly in front of you. By pouring your entire being into the here and now, you reclaim a profound sense of control and peace, because the present moment is the only reality you can ever truly act within. Marcus Aurelius guided himself with this very principle, writing, "Concentrate every minute like a Roman, on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness, tenderly, willingly, with justice." He is not describing a life of grand, sweeping gestures, but a life of profound dignity built minute by minute through the quality of attention you give to each small action. This is the essence of single tasking as a spiritual practice. Consider the simple, often mindless act of washing dishes. Normally, you might rush through it while listening to a podcast, planning your tomorrow, or fuming about a yesterday's argument. Your body is at the sink, but your mind is everywhere else, a recipe for distraction and low-grade stress. Now, try it the Stoic way. For just these few minutes, let the dishes be your entire universe. Feel the warmth of the water on your skin. Notice the shimmer of the soap bubbles and the smooth texture of a clean plate. Give the simple act of scrubbing your complete and undivided attention. You will discover something remarkable. The chore did not become more boring. It became a small island of serene focus in a chaotic day. The weight of other concerns temporarily lifts because you are fully immersed in a single, completable action. This micro-practice is a training ground for life itself. Your one routine task for today awaits. It could be drinking your morning coffee, tying your shoes, or writing a single email. The challenge is to perform it not as a hurried step toward something else, but as the main event with your complete and undivided attention. In that focused silence, you will find the ultimate simplification, a mind unburdened by anything but the simple, purposeful work of the present moment. These 20 rules share a single, luminous thread. True strength and a simple life do not come from rearranging the world to your liking, but from the quiet, disciplined mastery of your inner world. Your judgments, your desires, and your actions are the only domains where your authority is absolute. Every counterintuitive principle we have explored, from seeking discomfort to loving your fate, serves to flip our modern assumptions on their head, revealing that the path to peace is not forward, but inward. We exhaust ourselves trying to calm the storm, when the real work is to learn the art of sailing. The ultimate simplification is this radical shift of focus from the chaotic external to the governable internal. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered a final, unifying summary of this entire endeavor when he said, "The chief task in life is simply this, to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control." This is the heart of it all. Your power lies not in controlling the river's flow, but in choosing how you stand within it. As we close, take a quiet moment for one final reflection. Of all the rules we have walked through, which one resonated most deeply within you? Was it the idea of loving your fate, or the practice of premeditating hardships? Perhaps it was the call to speak little and well, or the reminder to build your inner citadel. More importantly, what is the one small, concrete step you will take to weave this principle into the fabric of your life, starting not tomorrow, but today? Your journey toward a stronger mind and a simpler life is just beginning. We would love to hear which rule has changed your perspective. Share your insights and your own Stoic practices in the comments below, and join our community of thoughtful explorers. If this path resonates with you, subscribe for more guidance on living a life of virtue, resilience, and profound